Chapter 9. It is, moreover, evident from what has been said, that it is not the function of the poet to relate what has happened, but what may happen, what is possible according to the law of probability or necessity. The poet and the historian differ not by writing in verse or in prose. The work of Herodotus might be put into verse, and it would still be a species of history, with meter no less than without it. The true difference is that one relates what has happened, the other what may happen. Poetry, therefore, is a more philosophical and a higher thing than history, for poetry tends to express the universal, history the particular. By the universal, I mean how a person of a certain type will on occasion speak or act, according to the law of probability or necessity, and it is this universality at which poetry aims in the names she attaches to the personages. The particular is, for example, what Alcibiades did or suffered. In comedy this is already apparent, for here the poet first constructs the plot on the lines of probability and then inserts characteristic names, unlike the lampooners who write about particular individuals. But tragedians still keep to real names, the reason being that what is possible is credible. What has not happened we do not at once feel sure to be possible, but what has happened is manifestly possible, otherwise it would not have happened. Still, there are even some tragedies in which there are only one or two well-known names, the rest being fictitious. In others, none are well-known, as in Agathon's Antheus, where incidents and names alike are fictitious, and yet they give none the less pleasure. We must not, therefore, at all costs keep to the received legends, which are the usual subjects of tragedy. Indeed, it would be absurd to attempt it, for even subjects that are known only to a few, and yet give pleasure to all. It clearly follows that the poet or maker should be the maker of plots rather than of verses, since he is a poet because he imitates, and what he imitates are actions. And even if he chances to take an historical subject, he is nonetheless a poet, for there is no reason why some events that have actually happened should not conform to the law of the probable and possible. And in virtue of that quality in them, he is their poet or maker. Of all plots and actions, the episodic are the worst. I call a plot episodic, in which the episodes or acts succeed one another without probable or necessary sequence. Bad poets compose such pieces by their own fault, good poets, to please the players, for, as they write show pieces for competition, they stretch the plot beyond its capacity and are often forced to break the natural continuity. But again, tragedy is an imitation not only of a complete action, but of events inspiring fear or pity. Such an effect is best produced when the events come on us by surprise, and the effect is heightened when, at the same time, they follow as cause and effect. The tragic wonder will be greater than if they happened of themselves or by accident, for even coincidences are most striking when they have an air of design. We may instance the statue of Midas at Argos, which fell upon his murderer while he was a spectator at a festival and killed him. Such events seem not to be due to mere chance. Plots, therefore, constructed on these principles are necessarily the best.
Summary and reflection of Chapter 9.
In Section 9 of the Poetics, Aristotle delves into the nature of poetry, highlighting its distinction from history. He asserts that the poet's function is not merely to relate what has happened, but to explore what may happen, guided by the law of probability or necessity. Unlike historians, poets are not defined by the medium of verse or prose. Instead, their essential difference lies in the focus on the universal, what may happen, rather than the particular, what has happened. Poetry, Aristotle contends, is a more philosophical and elevated form of expression, aiming to capture the universal essence of human character and action. The universal, according to Aristotle, involves portraying how individuals of a certain type might speak or act in accordance with probability or necessity. Poetry seeks universality in character names, aiming for archetypal representations. This stands in contrast to history, which deals with the particulars of individual actions and events. Even in tragedy, where real names are often used, the focus is on what is possible and credible. Aristotle argues against strict adherence to received legends, asserting that poets should be makers of plots rather than mere versifiers. A historical subject, when treated with adherence to the law of the probable and possible, can still be a work of poetry. Aristotle also critiques episodic plots, where episodes lack probable or necessary sequence, deeming them inferior. He notes that bad poets may create such plots due to their own faults, while good poets may do so to cater to the demands of the performers, stretching the plot beyond its natural capacity. Tragedy, Aristotle posits, is not just an imitation of a complete action, but specifically of events that evoke fear or pity. The most effective tragedies create an emotional impact when events unfold with surprise and follow a logical cause and effect sequence. The element of tragic wonder is heightened when events seem designed rather than occurring by mere chance.
Practical exercises.
Writers. Create a universal character. Develop a character sketch that embodies a universal type, illustrating how they might speak or act in certain situations. Compose a plot beyond legends. Craft a tragic or dramatic plot that deviates from received legends, but adheres to the law of the probable and possible. Composers. Musical composition for surprise. Compose a musical piece that aims to evoke surprise and emotional impact, mirroring the unexpected turns of a tragic plot. Soundtrack for tragedy. Create a musical soundtrack for a tragic play, enhancing the emotional resonance of key events. Dancers. Choreographing emotional impact. Develop a dance routine that conveys the emotional impact of surprising and pivotal moments in a tragedy. Expressing universality in dance. Choreograph a dance piece that embodies the universal qualities of character, transcending specific historical or cultural contexts. Actors. Performance of a universally archetypal scene. Act out a scene that portrays a character of a certain type, emphasizing universal traits and actions. Reinterpretation of historical events. Perform a scene from history, reinterpreted with adherence to the law of the probable and possible, transforming it into a work of poetry. These are exercises that encourage the artistic exploration of Aristotle's concepts, prompting creators to focus on universality, adherence to the probable and possible, and the emotional impact of surprising events within their respective mediums.